Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and welcome to the show, y'all. Look, President Trump, somebody made an attempt on his life the other day when he was in Pennsylvania. He's okay. Secret Service got him off the stage, and he's fine. Right now, he's at his convention in Milwaukee, and he appears to be okay. He has his ear covered up and all of that kind of stuff from where the round hit him on his face and ear. But I want to talk about what happened in here from this perspective after the assassination attempt. But let me lay the foundation before we get to it. A lot of people in here support President Trump, black and white. That's just what it is. And for different reasons. You know, when you listen to what they say, you know, the reasoning, the logic behind it is all across the board. But one thing's for sure, two things for certain. He has a solid contingency in here. I would guess maybe 30% of the people that I know of support him. And most of them are quiet supporters in here because, you know, things can happen in here when you express that type of support for somebody that has been so divisive. And they want to avoid that, but you hear the comments every now and then, white and black. I'm serious, white and black. I know you might not believe that, but it's true. But the people that support him the other day, after that attempt on his life, they prayed for him. And in here, it's not uncommon to see guys that get together. They form these prayer circles in the pods, right, in the buildings and the units that we live in. And they'll hold hands, and everybody goes around in that circle and gets to say something and adds to that prayer, you know. And then they end it by saying, amen. And like I say, the other night, the news was on, and we have this TV that's in the pod, right? And you have to have your radio on that's cooked up to a certain channel so you can hear the volume. If you don't have your radio on, you can't hear what's being said, so you got to read the closed captioning. So I rarely listen to my radio, so I was down there and I saw this thing on TV, breaking news, you know what I'm saying, attempt on former President Trump's life. And I see all of the rigmarole and everything that's going on, and he's coming up and they surround him, and he's got blood on his face, and he's pumping his fist saying, fight, fight. All of these different things, you know, being defiant, letting everybody know that he was okay. And I'm looking at the guys in the pod, and I'm watching their faces, and I see some of the guys had looks of concern. Some of them looked joyful and gleeful, being honest with you. And I saw some of them, they were somber. Some of them even had tears in their eyes. They even had tears in their eyes. And one of the guys said, we should pray for the president. So a lot of them, you know, they get together, black and white, and now you got a lot of former gang members, current gang members, you got a lot of former Aryan Nation, current Aryan Nation, Brotherhood, all of those type, they all get together because, you know, they were all wanting to pray for the former president. So they get together and they form this circle in the unit. And they start going around in the circle, and they're praying, and they're asking God to protect the president. They're asking God to heal this nation from the things that were going on and all of these types of things, right? And then they get to this one guy. His name is Randall. We're going to call him Randall, okay? Now, Randall is a violent offender, okay? Randall is a violent offender. He came in prison because he assaulted some people that he grew up with, some friends of his. He assaulted them with an axe hammer because they disagreed with him. Now, the details of his case, I'll be honest, I don't know. But I do know that he attacked his own friends with an axe hammer. An axe hammer. And he tried to kill him, beat him. Now, Randall, he's a member. He says he's a former member, rather. Let's say that. A former member of a white supremacist group. Now, like I said, in the prayer circle, it gets around to everybody. Everybody, if they want to, they have an opportunity to add to the prayer before everything is wrapped up. So it got to Randall. And Randall, he said some things similar to what everybody else said. God bless America. God bless the president. And then he said, God bless all white men who are under attack in this country. Keep us safe from the harm that some want to inflict on us for being proud Americans. That's what he said. So at that time, I'm watching from a distance. I'm watching. I could hear what he said, but it didn't really hit me at first as to the gravity of what could happen based on what he said. It didn't hit me at first. I was like, that's interesting. You know what I'm saying? Because I noticed the people in the circle, they still had their heads bowed, and how they know that it's time for them to pray is the person next to them to their right will squeeze their hand, and that lets them know that if you want to say something, you can say something now, and if you don't, then you squeeze your hand for the next person, and then that's how they know that it gets around the circle, right? So I'm looking, and I see that he squares the hand of this other guy, and it gets to him, and he says some things, and then a couple of more people away from him, it gets to this guy named Mark. And Mark is a black man. Strong, proud black man. And he's a former gang member. And he's a no-nonsense, take no prisoners, this is got to end type of dude. He is against all gang violence, criminality, all of it. It doesn't matter to him whether you're black, white, purple, or blue. If it's wrong in his eyes, and he's coming, and he's not going to play. So when it was his opportunity to pray, he said, Father, bless all of your children. Black, white, Latina, Asian, everything. He did not mince words one bit. He said, all of your children, regardless of their race, nationality, color, or creed. He said, because we are all God's children. And forgive those that would seek to divide us. And then this is what he hit him with. Listen to me now. He said, forgive those that would seek to divide us through prayer. So I'm listening, and it moved me. It moved me, y'all. And I looked, and I'm looking, and I'm watching this prayer circle, and Randall raised up his head and opened his eyes, and he looked to see who it was. And Mark was continuing to talk, so once he ID'd him, that's the way I took it anyway, because he looked over, once he saw who it was, he closed his eyes and he went back into prayer mode. You know what I'm saying? Observing the prayer by bowing his head. And then the prayer, Mark finished, and it made his way all around. And when it made his way all back around to the person that started it, he summed up the prayer with a few words, and he said, Amen. And everybody echoed that sentiment and said, Amen. Now, the prayer was over, and then after that, they all were hugging each other. And like I say, you had some guys that were crying, visibly shook at what had happened. Visibly shook. And they were praying, or like I said, after they finished praying, they were hugging each other, saying it's going to be all right, brother, and this, that, and the third, and everything's going to be okay. God got us and all this and that, right? But see, in prison, y'all, maneuverings are always in the mix. And it started to happen right then. I'm watching it. I'm sitting there and I'm looking. I'm seeing what's going on. See, Randall, even though he said he was former Aryan Nation type dude, white supremacist type dude, he eased his way over to where some white supremacists were at, all of them in this little area. He eased his way over there. And I could hear him talking. He got his hand up, covering his mouth, right? And he's saying something, but I couldn't make it out because he got his hand over his mouth. And I didn't want to keep staring at him. You can't just be staring at people up in the penitentiary because people get to looking at it like, okay, that could cause a problem. So I look and I don't look. You feel what I'm saying? So now, me being nosy, I'm nosy, y'all. I got to have some info from the stories. You know what I'm talking about? So I get up and I'm walking in a circle in the pod. And as I'm walking by, I'm hearing all these different groups of individuals commenting about what Randall said in the prayer. So quickly I knew this is going to be a problem. This is going to be a problem. Because everybody in that prayer circle, and some outside that prayer circle, heard what he said. Because when the guys do these prayer circles, the people in the pod that are playing dominoes, chess, and all, they respect it, so they'll get quiet so that they can do what they need to do. And when they do that, everybody can hear what's being said. So everybody was listening. They heard all of the machinations and the things that were being said about all of the different things that were said in the prayer. And everybody was locked in on this God bless all white men. So now that Mark was talking to some of the guys that he used to associate himself with, but he's telling them, man, don't pay no attention to that. Don't feed into that. Don't take the bait. Don't do it. But then Randall, he's telling his guys that we got to be on guard. We under attack. Gassing them up, making them feel like something's going to happen. Something's going to happen in here. And we got to be ready. You see what they did to the president? They not playing. Now keep in mind, at this particular time, when this thing came on the news about breaking news, President Trump had been an attempted assassination on his life. Nobody knew who the person was. Nobody knew who that man was, that little boy was. Nobody knew who he was. Nobody knew anything about his race, color, creed. They didn't know how old he was. They didn't know what type of weapon they used. They didn't have any real information on him. Everybody was guessing. Everybody was guessing. But it didn't matter to Randall. Randall was making moves. He was making moves. And now he's influencing other people. They're getting ready. He's building them up to do something. Building them up to do something. But Mark is over here. He's trying to keep everybody else calm. Don't take the bait. But it's too late. It's too late. Because, like I said, everybody could hear what he said. Not everybody's on point. Now, it's this other guy. It's this other guy named Steve. And Steve is what you call a probie, right? A probie, that's what they call somebody, you know what I'm saying, that's on watch, you know what I'm saying, with one of the white supremacist groups, right? Now, at first, I didn't recognize the look on his face. I saw him, and he had that look of concern, and I felt as though it might have been about the president. But I'm looking at him, and I see that look on his face, but I ain't peeping at it. I'm thinking he's just concerned. But he made his way the next morning to Mark. Now, he did this early in the morning, because they popped them doors early. He did this early in the morning because he didn't want any of the individuals that he was trying to associate himself with by pledging to be a part of the white supremacist movement. He didn't want them to see what he was about to do. And see, every morning Mark makes his way to the microwave to heat up his cup of coffee, right? He has to have that coffee every morning. So when Steve made his way over there to him, Mark turned around and said, "Hey, good morning." He said, "How you doing, bro?" He said, "I'm good." And Mark said, "Can I do something for you?" Because see, Mark was a good reader of people. He saw on his face that he wanted to say something, so he opened the door for him. And Steve said, "Yeah, I wanted to apologize for what Randall said the other night, last night in the prayer circle. That was wrong. That was wrong." And Mark said, I know. He said, "But look, be careful, because they're talking. They're talking." And he said, "Thank you for telling me that." But he said, "I'm not worried. I'm not worried at all about Randall. Not worried at all." He said, "I understand that." He said, "But it's not Randall by himself. It's a lot of them saying things." So Mark looked at him and he said, "Why are you risking your life coming to tell me this?" He said, "Man, because that was wrong what he said." He said, "I believe in my heritage. I'm a proud white man and all of these types of things, but I don't believe that other people should be mistreated." He said, "Then you joining the wrong thing." He said, "That you see what's going on. You see what they're about to do. Don't do that. Don't join that." He said, "I'm already in too deep. I'm already too far gone." He said, "It ain't never too late to walk away." He said, "If I walk away now, I'm going to have to pay for it." And he said, "I don't want to go through that either." He said, "But You're seeing what it is that you're about to join. You're seeing what it is. He said, you still got some time to walk away. But Steve said, man, look, I just came to let you know, be careful. They're planning, plotting, and strategizing. They want to do something to somebody. He said, man, they ain't going to do nothing. He said, they ain't going to do nothing. He said, but appreciate you. Appreciate everything that you just said. So Steve walks away, and what he didn't recognize is that some of the individuals that he's about to pledge his life to in the movement of white supremacy, a couple of them were on their way out the cells. And when they were coming out the cells, they saw him at the microwave talking to Mark, but they didn't know what he was talking about. So when they walked up on him, they said, hey, brother, greetings. And he greeted them back, and they said, what's going on over there? And he was like, oh, nothing. He was just at the microwave. They said, we saw that. What were you doing over at the microwave talking to him? He said, I just told him good morning. He said, we don't do that. We don't do that. He said, you went out of your way. He said, no, I just went over there to, you know what I'm saying, tell him good morning. He said, we don't do that. He said, yeah, we keep it kind and respectful. But he said, you were over there having a conversation. And unless you were told to have a conversation with one of them, that's not what you're supposed to be doing. Right now, you being watched, and you need to be careful about who you talk to and what you're talking about. You need to be in the cell learning what it is you need to learn about this movement of ours. So Steve dropped his head and he said, I understand. I understand. And he went on into the room. Now these two individuals, they dipped straight into the guy that's over them and went to talking to them, trying to explain to them what it was that they just seen. They just seen the probie, somebody that wants to be a part of the movement, talking to a black man. Talking to a black man. This is how petty it is, y'all. They didn't even want him talking to him. But he was over there talking to him. So now, the move is on. In that moment, they had made a decision that maybe Steve wasn't cut out for this lifestyle. That he didn't need to be a part of what it was that, you know what I'm saying, he thought he wanted to be a part of. It was a white supremacist move. This is a movement that has roots that go all the way back to the beginnings of this country. He couldn't fully understand what it meant to be a part of this, so maybe he shouldn't be allowed to be a part of it. That's what they were discussing. And they concluded that he had to go. Now see, Mark is not stupid. Mark understands all of the types of things about the movement. You see? Because he was once a gang member, and they act in similar ways, except for that particular group, white supremacist group, they have a particular issue against people that are not like them. Gangs just, you know what I'm saying, they get down with the criminality and the money and things like that, right? It don't matter about that, all that other stuff. Not so much anyway. So he thought about it, and he talked to some of his friends, letting them know what Steve had told him and all of that, putting them on point, letting them know everything that they had discussed. But at the same time, he was thinking about Steve. And he was thinking that this young man don't even understand that he's in danger now. Could be. And then based on the conversation that the two individuals that seen him talking to Mark, and when they went back and told the head of the movement, then what Mark was thinking, it turns out to be true. And they were plotting. They were plotting, and they wanted to do something to him. They didn't like what was going on, because they really liked what Randall had said. So later that day, I see Randall out, and he's sitting at the table, and all of the guys, you know, that associate with him, even though he keeps saying he's former, they're playing dominoes, and they're getting loud. And Steve, the probie, he makes his way over there to the table. And then they get real cold towards him. They're looking at him. Real cold. They don't speak. They don't greet him. They don't respond to his greeting or nothing. They just look at him and turn their heads back to the game. Everybody's continuing to talk, but they're not talking to him. They're sending him a vibe that he needs to leave. that he needs to walk away. And if you want to know how this turns out, you're going to have to listen to my next episode, right? This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all. I'm getting